So we're going to go straight to calls now. Nobody has any objections.
Sure.
We're going to be starting with a local caller from, it's Christian from Cedar Park, Texas.
Hello.
Hi, Christian.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I had a question for you guys, and I think it relates a little bit to Mr. Johnson and his kind of the theme of his movie too, a little bit.
Okay.
And that is, if somebody is religious and they have a predisposition towards religion, then it seems like that even if they, excuse me?
Go on.
Even if they have I'm getting a little echo on the phone, but
sorry. They're working on it.
okay. So even if I had doubts about whether there was an actual God or a supreme being, then I still might want to keep being religious just for any of the multiple aspects that come from being religious. And in that sense, and this doesn't really describe me right now. I mean, I have faith for the time being, and I believe. But I did go through other periods where I was, pretty much agnostic and atheist. But I didn't feel, I just always felt like there was something missing. I'm getting a pretty fierce echo. But
just work through it. I'm sorry.
okay, so I like the ritual of religion, and I like the worship part of it, even if it's just if you're singing the praises of creation. Ultimately, just the idea of hymns, just kind of the emotional tone of them, and I like even when I was younger, I liked church and religion more than.
So you're saying basically that you're still firm in your faith right now, but you're wondering if somebody who was losing their faith would ought to feel a benefit from continuing to go through the motions and rituals of religion just to get the sort of comfort and fellowship that it involves. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. If they find it fulfilling.
Yeah.
Then,
well, he was asking you, Chris. You've talked to a lot of people who have been through the deconversion process. Do you have a perspective on this?
I would just say that you don't necessarily have to stop singing religious music. If you like the music, you can still sing music, even if it has a religious basis. One thing that is nice, though, that the secular community really is coming together more so than it used to. So you can get that fellowship and that community from atheists. I mean, we spent yesterday on the Bat Cruise, and it was great hanging out with all these wonderful people and meeting people and talking. And I mean, you get that same sense of community and friendship from atheists. And I think you can get that from a secular community just as much as a religious one.
Well, there's also...
okay.
Wait. What is it, Richard?
Well, there's also Sunday Assembly, which isn't my thing, but some people love that. I mean, it's kind of like it's a hymn-based, ecstatic religious experience, except it's not religious. It's for atheists and non-believers. If you just Google Sunday Assembly, you can probably find websites and see where those things are going around. It's kind of like, it's like a tent event that goes around the country. And they want to create more of these things. And they do serve that segment of the community that want that part of, they just can't believe anymore in the ideology or the particular teachings of the religion, but love that particular experience of church, of the singing and that particular kind of thing. And so they've created a sort of secular version of this. So people who are into that might be the thing for you. I don't know.
Right.
Well, I mean, I think that it's also to kind of the fact that religion addresses this aspect of us that is somewhat primitive and, some of it's lost in the past. but it formed in kind of a state of innocence that
I'm going to have to be the curmudgeon at this table and disagree with that.
I don't think by innocence, I don't mean innocent of causing harm to people.
Right,
I mean,
but no, but I
of
mean,
awareness.
Religion didn't just form spontaneously, as I see it.
No, I don't mean
It grew organically out of a bunch of social conventions, and even today, most people wind up with the religion that comes from their parents or their culture or whatever.
Absolutely.
So
But
it depends.
Well, let me rephrase what I meant by innocence. I mean, there's a sophistication of thought that develops as you learn about science and psychology, etc. In the same way that when you're a child, you can perceive things a certain way, but once you learn a certain amount, you kind of lose the ability to go back to that perception.
So, but are you getting at like the idea of the sense of awe and wonder that you can get at the universe?
I'm saying that I don't think that you can go to an atheist gathering for fellowship and get the same thing that you can get going to a 500-year-old cathedral and being with people who are actually, fully engaging in the original way.
But I've been to a 500-year-old cathedral and still gotten that sense of awe and wonder, and it had nothing to do with God. It had to do with the architecture, it had to do with the space, it had to do most of all with the history that's part of that. So I don't think it has anything to do with God or even religion.
I think what I would say to your point is that every experience is unique, and a lot of different experiences can be moving in a way. The feeling you get from going to a 500-year-old cathedral is not the same feeling that you get when you go to the Louvre and and you look at these amazing paintings that people have worked on. And I think by denying the existence of God, we're not invalidating that there's some really great religious art and architecture and music.
My point.
And you're right that you can continue to participate in those things and appreciate them, but at the same time, there's not the feeling that you're required to focus on that one type of thing as the only thing that can elevate you in your life.
Oh, sure.
Well, I would add also that, a lot of that, of course, is marketing campaign, right? Churches, they don't just want you to come there and sing. They want you to vote a certain way. They want you to have certain values. They want you to treat gay people a certain way, or they want you to treat women a certain way. They have certain ideology they're trying to sell.
Sure.
And so you're going to be socially pressured to adopt that ideology. I know a lot of people that have left the church simply because they no longer agreed with the values, and the people, the congregation simply wouldn't let them be themselves. They would constantly try to pressure them to just toe the party line. And I think that's the main problem with that. And you'd have to have like a church like the Unitarian Universalist Church, which is accepting of all different kinds of beliefs, and they don't pressure you quite the same way. But then maybe you won't find, they don't have 500-year-old cathedrals in the Unitarian Church.
They weren't funded as well.
Yeah. Well, you'd be surprised. The Unitarians have often some good land and some good churches, but they're often more modern. But
but what I mean to say is that the point I'm making when I'm talking about cathedrals and such is that something is built up. It's a culture is built up around worship and relating to God and daily activities and ways to carry out the religious life. And, like whoever said before, I had to turn my TV off so that I'm not looking at you guys. But, whoever said it grows organically. And that's kind of what I mean by that. Is you have
but what I'm saying is that is not unique to religion. People form all sorts of different cultures and call it all sorts of different things. They form football cultures and gaming cultures. They form fraternity cultures at their college. And those fill different roles. People have lots of social groups in their adult life. And
I didn't mean to say that it was exclusive in any way. What I'm saying is, if all of those things have been tied together in a religion, and if maybe because you were raised with that religion,
but it's
or
not
because
just
you found it attractive.
Yeah, a lot of it really comes from your upbringing. I wasn't raised religious, and I don't miss it.
And it's not just religion.
Absolutely.
Like we said before, it's history, it's culture, it's all wrapped up in many of those different things. So you can't just say it's only religion. It's a bunch of different things wrapped together. And you can take those parts and appreciate those different parts without having to buy into the religion.
Sure. Or you might also buy into the religion.
You
might.
could. Lots of people
Right.
do, from what I've heard.
Yeah, and on issues of believing in God and that kind of thing, it seems that even religious people I know, it seems everybody I know has some type of doubt or goes in and out of periods of certainty. That's very common.
You have no idea how heartened I am to hear that.
Oh, sure.
No, but it is true, yeah.
But so...
Yeah, I mean, Mother Teresa had
that
doubts.
may not be any reason to leave the religion if you find it fulfilling, that alone.
No, but the reason to leave religion is that it might actually not be true, and it might be misleading, and it might actually be harmful in certain aspects. And I think that there is no reason to jettison the bad part, to jettison all the good parts, along with getting rid of the unnecessary thing of unquestioningly worshiping this infinite being and taking at face value something that people in authority tell you all your life. Those are what I see as the negative sides of religion.
So it's a
But
question of
also,
where
I
that-
don't believe in God, so I don't think that at the bottom level there is a basis for it.
Right, but I'm saying, being that there are people besides you who may be different at different places along that spectrum, then, you know, again, what they decide is harmful and what they decide is true or not true is going to be different. So even if somebody has major doubts about the metaphysical God, they may still go on with being religious.
Right? They may. I think we're in agreement.
And
Yeah.
I think that you can also, but the one other thing that I was pointing to at the beginning is, some people have a religious attitude towards nature.
Yeah.
And so, since God supposedly is, existence comes from God, or He's the source of existence, then there's kind of an overlap there.
If you believe in God.
Well, no, I'm saying in the concept. There's an overlap in the concepts.
There can be.
And so, in
but-
that sense, it may naturally go towards what was worshiping God may naturally go towards an appreciation or a love or a worship of nature.
Yeah,
Sure.
there are all kinds of things you could channel that energy into that aren't explicitly religious. But
Well,
I
you
think,
could do it in a religious way, too.
Yeah, I think we're going to move on to other callers now.
All right.
Thanks for calling, Christian.
Sure. Good talking to you.
Bye.